The Interstellar Commonwealth, a loose but resilient alliance of 100 species, had been crafted over centuries. Its mission was to maintain peace, regulate trade, and bring a sense of order to the sprawling, often chaotic universe. Its members ranged from the ancient, sapient seashell-like KRRF, who communicated in tones too high for most species to hear, to the insectoid Velith, known for their aggressive expansionism and unswerving belief in their own superiority. Each species brought its own needs, demands, and insecurities to the Commonwealth table, and every alliance had been painstakingly negotiated, often by the Commonwealth's newest member, humanity. Humans were a young race by galactic standards. They were still learning the nuances of interspecies diplomacy, yet they'd quickly carved out a reputation as problem solvers and peacemakers. Humanity had helped calm a mining dispute on the rocky moon of Yinkal, negotiated safe passage for trade ships through the treacherous nebula of Silence, and even established the Commonwealth's first diplomatic training academy, where future ambassadors learned the art of navigating galactic relations. But for all their successes, humanity's patience was becoming the galaxy's convenience. More than once, humans had been double-crossed, their alliances exploited for gain. The Commonwealth saw humans as flexible, eager to belong, and willing to compromise, a valuable trait for a diplomat, but dangerous if taken for granted. The tipping point came on Prosperous 7, a beautiful and resource-rich human colony world that orbited a blue-white star at the edge of Commonwealth space. Prosperous 7 held massive reserves of helionite, a rare mineral that powered the Commonwealth's faster-than-light drives. It was a resource the galaxy desperately needed, and the humans on Prosperous 7 knew it. But in the Commonwealth Council, demands soon arose to share the resources of Prosperous 7. To the Commonwealth, the minerals on Prosperous 7 were too valuable to be monopolized by any single species, especially a young race like humanity. So, despite humanity's claims to the planet, factions began making their moves. The amphibious Jorith, with their murky claim based on an ancient trading network, sent their freighters to prosperous skies. The Velith, as always, took a more aggressive approach, deploying ships to the outskirts of the planet, ready to enforce their own protectorate status if necessary. Humans on Prosperous 7 grew anxious, their communication lines buzzing with tales of territorial skirmishes and disappearances. Rumors swirled that the Velith had captured human scouts near the mining stations and that the Jorith had sabotaged vital equipment on Prosperous equatorial colonies. The humans on the ground felt the grip of the Commonwealth tightening around them like an iron vice, squeezing them out of their homeworld. High Commander Kale Salas, the human representative to the Commonwealth, was summoned to a special council meeting. Salas was known as a diplomat, a careful speaker who knew how to soften his words even in the face of great disrespect. But this meeting would test him in ways he'd never imagined. The Commonwealth Council chamber was an imposing structure, a massive ring surrounded by holographic displays of each member species' homeworld, flickering and shimmering with each speaker's emotion and intensity. Salas, with his tall frame and piercing gaze, commanded respect even among those who saw humans as little more than tolerated newcomers. Salas approached the center of the room and began, his voice steady but edged with a growing frustration. The situation on Prosperous 7 has spiraled out of control. Our colony is being occupied by outside forces. Families are being displaced, resources are being seized without permission, and human lives are at risk. The counselors shifted, exchanging glances. Some nodded, others looked away. To Salas, they seemed indifferent, as if this conflict was nothing more than another tedious item on a long list. Then Grixar, the Velith counselor, rose to speak. His elongated, chitinous limbs clicked as he moved, his mandibles twitching with barely disguised contempt. Prosperous 7's resources are too important to be left solely to the humans. You understand, I'm sure, that one race's claim cannot outweigh the needs of the entire Commonwealth. Helionite is too vital for it to be hoarded. Salas's jaw clenched, but he kept his voice steady. Hoarded? We've willingly shared helionite with every member of this council, as per our agreement. But these actions occupying our planet under the pretense of protectorate status violate every principle we agreed to uphold. Grixar's voice turned mocking. Humans have no real claim to the galaxy's resources. Your position here is by our favor. Prospera 7 is a gift you were granted by the Commonwealth. Gifts can be revoked. There was a stunned silence, the weight of Grixar's words reverberating through the chamber. Other council members looked away, unwilling to meet Salas's eyes. For years, humanity had swallowed insults, had compromised, had worked to be the peacekeepers of the Commonwealth. But something shifted in Salas's expression, a dark glint in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He leaned forward, voice dropping to a cold, precise tone. You call it a gift. But know this, we have done our part in holding this alliance together, often at great cost. You may think you know us, think that we'll accept this injustice as we've accepted so many before. But you don't understand what you're playing with. A ripple of discomfort passed through the council. The humans were always cooperative, always willing to negotiate. This Salas, with his quiet, simmering fury, was something different, something alien to them. The Commonwealth chair, a weary, ancient being known as Korthol, tried to smooth over the tension. Perhaps we can reach a compromise, send a mediator to oversee Prospera 7 and ensure fair distribution of its resources. But Salas shook his head. No compromise. This is your final warning. Withdraw from Prospera 7 or face the consequences. The council erupted into whispers. Salas turned on his heel and walked out, his message delivered. For a moment, the chamber was silent, uncertain. Then the whispers turned to laughter. The Velith chuckled, dismissing Salas's words as hollow bravado. The rest of the council breathed a sigh of relief. After all, they'd seen human anger before, an emotional outburst, nothing more. They believed humans were as harmless as they were accommodating. Little did they know that in Salas's heart, a fuse had been lit. Humanity was finished with being the galaxy's patient negotiator. For centuries, they'd held themselves back, believing that diplomacy and cooperation were the only paths to peace. But as he stepped away from the council chambers, Salas knew that humanity was on the verge of something new, something that would change the Commonwealth forever. For now, the galaxy laughed. But soon, no species would ever forget the moment when humans finally lost their patience. News of the Commonwealth's disregard for humanity's plea spread like wildfire through Earth and its colonies. People were angry, betrayed, and, most of all, disillusioned with the Commonwealth they'd once fought so hard to join. They had always believed that the Council represented a vision of unity, a future where diversity was celebrated and cooperation was sacred. But now, it was clear, humanity's presence in the Commonwealth was tolerated, not respected. The situation on Prospera 7 continued to deteriorate. The Velith occupation turned increasingly brutal as they tightened their grip on the colony's helionite mines, blocking food supplies, seizing homes, and enforcing curfews. Human colonists were pushed further and further into the outskirts, their settlements reduced to isolated camps hidden deep within Prospera 7's vast, blue-leafed forests. Velith troops patrolled the landscape, heavily armed and ruthless in their pursuit of control. As weeks passed with no support from the Commonwealth, the human colonists on Prospera 7 found themselves facing a nightmare scenario. Entire families were torn apart, children went missing, and rumors circulated that some colonists were being taken as hostages. Without access to the advanced medical facilities in the central cities, a sickness spread among the displaced population, weakening them further. The Commonwealth's silence grew louder with each passing day, echoing in the minds of every human who had trusted in its ideals. In response, Earth's leaders recalled High Commander Kael Salas from his post as a representative on the Commonwealth Council. The quiet fury Salas had shown in the council chamber resonated deeply among humans across the galaxy. They no longer wanted a diplomat, they wanted a warrior. Salas returned to Earth a changed man. The people rallied around him, seeing in his hardened resolve the embodiment of their own anger and frustration. Salas, too, had come to a bitter realization: the Commonwealth was beyond reform. Diplomacy had failed, and it was time for humanity to assert itself. To protect their own, humans could no longer rely on others, they would need to rely on themselves. The moment Salas landed on Earth, he was greeted by both government and military officials, all of whom were eager for his direction. Humanity was preparing for something it had never considered before: a full-scale defiance of the Commonwealth. The stakes were monumental, the consequences potentially disastrous. Yet, in the eyes of Salas and countless others, this was the only path left. A secret council was formed, composed of Earth's top scientists, strategists, and military minds. This council was charged with the development of Project Redline, a bold initiative to prepare humanity for what lay ahead. The name was no accident. Redline referred to the threshold humanity would never again allow others to cross. It was a symbol of their determination to defend themselves by any means necessary. Project Redline was more than just a military initiative, it was a complete transformation of humanity's strategic stance. Under this project, Earth's brightest minds began devising advanced weapons that would challenge the Commonwealth's greatest military powers. Technology that had been shelved in the name of peace was re-examined and refined. Weapons powered by antimatter, warp-capable strike fleets, gravity disruptors, and neural hijackers, devices that could scramble the nervous systems of entire armies, were brought out of the shadows. The most ambitious among these was the development of the Excalibur Array, a satellite network capable of creating a region-wide energy field that could shut down enemy weapons systems within seconds. It was a defensive mechanism, but it carried an implicit message: humanity would no longer depend on the goodwill of others to protect its people. Meanwhile, scientists on Prospera 7 were working underground, hidden from the Velith occupation, refining helionite reactors that could be weaponized. Using these resources to power their most advanced machinery, they created stealth units that could infiltrate Velith bases undetected. Human resistance on Prospera 7 grew in confidence as they saw the fruits of their labor take shape, whispering of the day they would rise up and retake their home. As humanity fortified itself, the Commonwealth grew uneasy. The silence from Earth had not gone unnoticed. Humanity's absence in diplomatic channels and the recalling of Salas sent shockwaves through the galaxy's political landscape. Even the Commonwealth's most arrogant leaders sensed something had shifted. There was an underlying anxiety as rumors spread that humanity was planning something drastic. They just couldn't fathom what. An emergency council meeting was convened, and representatives from across the galaxy gathered to address the human issue. But it quickly devolved into finger-pointing and bickering. The Velith, doubling down on their dominance, dismissed the concerns as overblown paranoia, claiming that humans were simply sulking and would come crawling back to the Commonwealth eventually. The Jorith and a handful of other species, however, began to worry about the repercussions of pushing humanity too far. They had grown accustomed to humanity's endless patience, yet even they recognized that something was different this time. Desperate to re-establish control over Prospera 7 and reaffirm the Commonwealth's authority, the Velith launched an unprecedented military campaign on the colony. They deployed their largest fleet yet, fully armed, sending a clear message to Earth: submit or be crushed. But this time, humanity did not remain silent. Just as the Velith fleet entered Prospera 7's orbit, the entire sky was blanketed in darkness as humanity's new warships descended from warp gates. Sleek and silent, painted in shades of matte black that absorbed the starlight, these ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They moved with a precision and stealth that defied Velith tracking systems, and their weapons emitted no visible glow, only a flicker before each strike, then silence. The Velith, taken off guard by humanity's swift response, scrambled to organize their forces. But their formations were cut through like paper by humanity's gravity disruptors, which created localized fields that crushed Velith ships under their own weight. The Excalibur Array activated in a dazzling display, its satellite network casting a shimmering field over Prospera 7. Within seconds, the entire Velith fleet found its systems disabled, their weaponry rendered useless. On the ground, human operatives, equipped with newly developed stealth armor, moved through Velith encampments like shadows. These operatives planted devices that scrambled communications, creating mass confusion among Velith ranks. When the human colonists, once displaced and disheartened, rose up with newly supplied weapons, the Velith ground forces had little chance of organizing a defense. The humans fought with an unyielding determination, fueled by the bitterness of their betrayal and the knowledge that they were fighting not just for their planet but for their dignity. The battle was over in hours, but its impact reverberated across the galaxy. When word reached the Commonwealth Council that the Velith fleet had been utterly defeated by humanity's forces, disbelief turned to shock. Humanity's capabilities had been grossly underestimated, and their willingness to deploy such devastating technology sent a chill through the council chambers. The galaxy realized, perhaps too late, that humans were no longer willing to bow to anyone. In the aftermath, the Commonwealth scrambled to send emissaries to Earth, desperate to understand humanity's new stance. They brought offers of peace, apologies, and promises of reparations, hoping to rekindle the old, diplomatic humanity they'd known. But humanity did not respond. There were no meetings, no negotiations. Just a single transmission from High Commander Salas to the Commonwealth Council. Prospera 7 is secure. We will not tolerate further interference. Withdraw from every human colony and cease your exploitation, or you will face the consequences. This is not a request. Test us, and we will show you what happens when humans have had enough. The council sat in stunned silence as Salas's words echoed through the chambers. For the first time in the Commonwealth's long history, they felt the full weight of humanity's anger. The galaxy had crossed humanity's red line. The consequences had only begun, and every species sensed that they stood on the edge of an era that would forever redefine the balance of power in the stars. The galaxy had been shaken. Stories of humanity's response on Prospera 7 spread like wildfire across the Commonwealth, whispered in council chambers and shouted in rowdy spaceport cantinas. Entire fleets decimated, soldiers incapacitated, colonies reclaimed in hours. The once overlooked humans had shown themselves capable of something the galaxy had never anticipated: retribution. In the days following the battle, the Commonwealth scrambled to restore some semblance of order. They launched a frantic campaign of diplomacy, sending emissaries and delegations to Earth, desperately trying to repair relations. The Commonwealth chair, Korthol, reached out personally, urging humanity to return to the council table, pleading for peace. The messages were received, read, and ignored. Humanity's response was total silence. Earth had gone dark on all official channels, the once eager diplomats replaced by an unyielding wall of quiet. Behind this silence, humanity was mobilizing. Earth's new Shadow Council, composed of military commanders, scientists, and strategists, was developing Project Redline into a full-scale defensive and offensive protocol that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. They had one clear directive: protect human space at all costs, with no compromise and no diplomacy. Humanity's most brilliant minds, now liberated from the limitations of peacetime treaties, pushed technology to new frontiers. The secrets of the Red Line Project were known only to a select few, but rumors circulated among the colonies and military outposts. Earth's factories turned out starships armed with weaponry that broke the limits of the Commonwealth's understanding, antimatter torpedoes capable of vaporizing entire fleets, and electromagnetic shields that could withstand sustained bombardment from any known Commonwealth weapon. And then there was the Excalibur Array, the orbital defense grid humanity had deployed over Prospera 7. What the galaxy didn't know was that Earth was now building a network of these arrays over every human colony world. Each array could generate energy fields capable of neutralizing even the most advanced weaponry the Commonwealth had to offer. By the time the last array was completed, humanity would be encased in an invisible fortress, virtually impregnable. Project Redline was nearly complete, and the galaxy remained ignorant of the storm brewing at its core. On Prosperous 7, High Commander Kale Salas took personal command of the human forces. The colony had transformed into a fortress, its defenses bristling with weaponry as scientists and engineers raced to restore Helionite extraction. This time, the Helionite wouldn't be used to fuel Commonwealth ships, it was now reserved for humanity's own fleet. Under Salas's command, they prepared the colony as a staging ground, ready to defend the planet at all costs and serve as a warning to any Commonwealth fleet daring enough to challenge them. The Velith, humiliated by their defeat, began amassing their forces. They couldn't bear the stain on their honor, nor the insult to their pride. Their warlord, Grixtel, declared an open vendetta against humanity, promising that the galaxy would see the humans brought to their knees. Even as the Commonwealth Council tried to intervene, the Velith gathered an armada, their weapons and ships outfitted with every technological advancement they possessed, determined to prove that they would not be bested by humans. The Commonwealth's pleas for peace went unheeded, and tensions reached a boiling point. Meanwhile, Earth's Shadow Council monitored the situation closely, tracking every movement of the Velith fleet. Humanity's Red Line forces were prepared, ready to retaliate if a single Velith ship crossed into human territory. This time, however, Salas and his team weren't interested in defending, they were prepared to strike back. As the Velith fleet moved closer, humanity issued its first and only message to Grixtal and the Commonwealth: stand down and withdraw, or face annihilation. But the Velith refused. Seeing humanity's words as empty bravado, Grixtal commanded his fleet to enter human space, launching the first of their warships toward Prosperous 7. When the Velith fleet arrived, it was met not by the skirmishes they expected but by a staggering sight. The entire horizon was lined with human ships, hundreds of sleek, black vessels hovering in formation, shields shimmering like liquid armor. At their core floated the Excalibur array, now integrated into the colony's orbital defense. Salas himself commanded the fleet, his message relayed to Grixtal with deadly clarity: this is the end of your trespass. The Velith hesitated, their usual arrogance dimmed by the unexpected display of human firepower. But Grixtal, blinded by his pride, ordered his fleet forward. What followed was an assault unlike anything recorded in Commonwealth history. Human ships surged forward, each vessel moving with terrifying precision, their antimatter torpedoes slicing through the Velith fleet. The Excalibur array activated in a blinding arc of light, generating an energy field that rendered Velith weaponry useless. As Velith ships crumbled under the relentless assault, the human forces pressed forward, driving the Velith armada into retreat. Within minutes, the Velith found themselves cornered, their pride and strength reduced to rubble. But the humans didn't stop there. Salas's voice echoed across the remaining Velith channels: your actions have marked you. This is no longer a border conflict. This is our message to the Commonwealth. He gave the order, and human forces launched a coordinated strike on the Velith homeworld outposts, disabling every Velith installation along the human border. Grixtal watched, horrified, as his once great fleet was reduced to twisted metal and dust, his homeworld's defenses shattered without hope of recovery. News of the battle spread rapidly across the galaxy. Entire civilizations watched in disbelief as the Velith, the galaxy's fiercest and most feared warriors, were brought to their knees in a matter of hours. The Commonwealth Council, too stunned to react, held an emergency session. The council chamber, usually filled with the hum of casual conversation, was deathly silent as the leaders of each species considered their options. Salas sent a single transmission to the Commonwealth: withdraw from all human worlds, or face the same fate. You have tested us for the last time. The galaxy's response was a mixture of outrage and fear. Commonwealth members who had once viewed humanity as an easy target now reevaluated their positions. Rumors circulated of entire planets voluntarily cutting ties with the Commonwealth, fearing the retaliation of the now feared human fleet. Species once eager to undermine humanity found themselves scrambling to issue statements of neutrality, terrified of drawing humanity's attention. The Commonwealth, long accustomed to dismissing human concerns, was now faced with a decision: respect humanity's sovereignty or risk war on an unprecedented scale. As they debated, however, another revelation hit them. Intelligence reports came in, detailing Project Redline. The report spoke of gravity disruptors, antimatter warheads, neural hijackers, and the Excalibur Array A fleet capable of not just defending human space, but annihilating any who dared to cross it. The true extent of humanity's powers sent a cold shock through the Commonwealth Council. For centuries, the Commonwealth had held the advantage in technology, controlling the galaxy's most advanced weaponry. But now, humanity had surpassed them, turning its technology into a sword hanging over the galaxy. And so, humanity had drawn its red line. The Commonwealth, once the overseer of peace and order, found itself at humanity's mercy, its hands tied by the threat of annihilation. Salas, now a figure of legendary stature, became both feared and respected. He issued his final demand: human space is sovereign. We will trade, but on our terms. We will engage, but on equal footing. If you cross this line, you will suffer the same fate as the Velith. The galaxy stood on a knife's edge, the fragile balance of power forever shifted. Salas knew humanity had taken a gamble, one that might haunt them for generations. But they had been left with no choice. In drawing the red line, humanity had transformed its role from the galaxy's peacekeeper to its silent, unyielding enforcer. And so, the red line was set in stone, a symbol of humanity's final stance. The Commonwealth's whispers grew to a hum, and then to a constant chant in every council chamber and every colony across the stars. No species will ever forget the moment when humans finally lost their patience. The Commonwealth, once the pinnacle of galactic unity, found itself unraveling in the wake of humanity's defiance. Where once its members had come together to share knowledge, settle disputes, and expand peacefully, the Council's chambers now echoed with a pervasive tension. Species that had previously mocked humanity's appeals now avoided their territories. Others, uneasy about the Commonwealth's failures, quietly distanced themselves, fearing that any association might bring humanity's wrath upon them. The Velith, humiliated by their defeat and rendered powerless, were no longer a threat. Their influence in the Commonwealth waned as their former allies shunned them, now wary of humanity's strength. Even the Velith's most die-hard supporters could not argue against the truth: they had underestimated humanity, and it had nearly cost them their existence. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders solidified humanity's new position. High Commander Kale Salas returned to the Council in a highly orchestrated display, a singular reminder of the force behind humanity's silence. He spoke to the assembled representatives, his voice firm and unyielding, each word carrying a gravity that settled over the room like a weight. Let this be our final word on the matter: humanity will not compromise on our sovereignty again. Our colonies, our people, and our resources are not to be interfered with. We will honor our agreements, but only those based on mutual respect and equality. From this point forward, any violation of our space or any attempt to infringe upon our rights will be met with force. A murmur ran through the assembly. Salas's words weren't just a declaration, they were a warning. He had refrained from making any threats, but his message was clear to all: humanity had drawn its line in the stars, and any species that crossed it would face the full brunt of their power. In the following weeks, the Commonwealth struggled to return to its old ways. Diplomatic channels reopened cautiously, and certain species sought to rebuild bridges with humanity, offering trade agreements that respected their independence. Even the Jorith, who had once tried to claim Prosperous 7 as their own, reached out to Salas, proposing a technology-sharing deal. Salas accepted, but only on humanity's terms, setting the stage for humanity to finally stand as an equal on the galactic stage. But despite these diplomatic gestures, the galaxy remained unsettled. The Commonwealth was fractured, its authority weakened, and its once unshakable influence now vulnerable to the shifting allegiances of its members. Rumors spread that other species, inspired by humanity's defiance, were beginning to question the Council's authority. Some openly discussed secession, emboldened by the knowledge that humanity had managed to break free from the Commonwealth's control. The Red Line had done more than secure human independence, it had exposed the fragility of the Commonwealth's power. Humanity, however, had no illusions about their newfound status. Salas and Earth's Shadow Council knew they had won this battle, but the future held unknown challenges. Humanity had gained respect, even fear, but their actions had also bred resentment. The galaxy's political landscape was a minefield, and one wrong step could lead to disaster. As Earth and its colonies settled into their new role, humanity began fortifying itself further, not just for defense, but for the uncharted path ahead. They invested heavily in education, innovation, and exploration, developing their own warp gate networks to reduce their dependency on the Commonwealth's infrastructure. Helionite refineries were constructed on every human world, powering an ever-expanding fleet, and the Excalibur arrays were replicated on every colony, forming an unbreakable defense network across human space. Even more quietly, humanity's scientists and engineers continued to refine their technology. From warp-jumping battleships to remote-controlled drones capable of traversing hostile environments, humanity's technological prowess began to outpace even the most advanced Commonwealth species. Their weapons, now developed in secret and protected by their own security, became the stuff of whispered legend across the stars. The final symbol of humanity's newfound independence was the construction of the Celestial Gate, a massive orbital station anchored above Earth. Unlike any structure the Commonwealth had ever seen, the Celestial Gate was both a fortress and a gateway, equipped with its own Excalibur array and capable of supporting an entire fleet. It served as a reminder to all who entered human space, they were now visitors, and humanity alone decided who was welcome. Years passed, and humanity's influence began to grow quietly but steadily. Where they had once been perceived as naive and eager, now they were viewed as formidable allies and dangerous adversaries. The Council, though diminished, continued to seek alliances with humanity, eager to maintain their ties and avoid further escalation. Trade with Earth increased, and humanity's advancements became the envy of the galaxy. But beneath these interactions was a quiet understanding: humanity had become a sovereign power, one that even the Commonwealth could no longer control. One fateful day, a small delegation from an uncharted sector requested an audience with Salas. They were the Tiziari, a mysterious and reclusive species known for their ancient wisdom and powerful telepathy. As they stood before Salas, the Tiziari emissary, an elderly figure adorned with intricate patterns of silver and blue, spoke in a tone that resonated through the chamber. "We have watched your species rise. We have witnessed your patience, your pain, and your resolve. The galaxy, once quick to underestimate you, now trembles at your strength. But know this: strength alone will not ensure peace. We bring you a warning, High Commander Salas." The Tiziari emissary leaned forward, his dark eyes reflecting Salas's image. "There are forces beyond this Commonwealth, forces that have watched these events unfold with growing interest. They are ancient and powerful, and they seek only dominion. Beware the shadows and the void, for they are awakening. In your resolve to protect your people, you may soon find yourselves standing against an enemy far greater than you have yet faced." With that, the Tiziari delegation departed, leaving Salas and his advisors in a tense silence. Humanity's independence had freed them from the Commonwealth's grasp, but it had also drawn the attention of powers beyond their understanding. Salas knew that humanity's future was more uncertain than ever. Standing before the vast starfield in his command ship's observation deck, Salas gazed into the stars, contemplating the Tiziari's warning. Humanity had gained respect, sovereignty, and power, but he understood now that each victory came with its own weight. The Red Line had served its purpose, protecting his people and marking humanity's place in the galaxy, but it had also brought them to the precipice of a new era, one fraught with both opportunity and unimaginable danger. As he looked into the void, Salas whispered to himself, a quiet reminder of the struggle that had brought them here: "We will protect our own. We will defend our place among the stars." And no force neither here nor beyond will ever make us bend again. The galaxy's eyes were on humanity, watching the species that had defied all expectations and dared to challenge the stars. For generations to come, no species would forget the moment when humans finally lost their patience. And as they stood on the edge of this new chapter, the universe waited, knowing that humanity's journey had only just begun.